Once upon a time, there was a girl who lived with her evil stepsisters. She made it to the ball and met her prince, but the story does not end there.
My childhood was not an easy one. My mother died giving birth to me, so from the very beginning there was a distinctive lack of feminine influence on my life. So I was actually really excited when my father remarried. When my father was still alive, it wasn't terribly bad. You could see it in little things. You know, my stepmother would assign chores to us, and her girls would have things like put away their toys, whereas I would have things like sweep the hearth ashes or clear the brush from the path.
Right, and so I would ask her to do a few things, which, older sister, younger sister, I mean, that is what we do. It is it's the God-given right of being an older sister.
When I was 15, my father passed away, and everything changed. There was no pretense any longer, and my stepsisters were rejoicing because they had their own personal maidservant, and that is how it continued for the majority of my adolescence and young adulthood.
Cinderella's other sister, Zelda, had a different perspective.
I always liked Cindy growing up. I felt torn between her and Hilda because Hilda was my sister, but Hilda was so mean to her sometimes. I felt bad I couldn't really stand up for Cindy, and sometimes she needed me, but I was always not there for her. And sometimes Hilda had a point, sometimes she was a brat, but Hilda was, for the most part, a brat back.
Cinderella's life changed dramatically when she attended a ball hosted by the local Prince Charming.
I met Cinderella at this party that my dad threw for me. He had been taken to throwing these parties that he called meat markets. So, gross. Thanks, Dad. Anyway, but the point was he was taking in, these princesses from all over the world just so I could meet them and, I guess produce another heir, continue the line. Anyway, they were all boring, or they were very consistently uninteresting. These girls just, they thought about pretty much money and money. But Cinderella walked into one of them, and, it was pretty late near the end of it, and I was just like, wow, this girl's completely different from, she was just stunning in this gorgeous dress, and, she had this smile on her face, and I just was like, Dad, I gotta go talk to her. And I went, zoomed right in, and she turned out the door and left. Like, almost, it felt like instantly. I didn't even know what happened. In fact, so it was so fast that she was gone, she went out the door, and I never saw her after that, except she left one of her shoes behind. So I said, all right, well, I gotta find this girl because I can't do any more of these goddamn parties. So I took the shoe and we went all over the kingdom, and I said, we'll check out the nobles. We know a lot of people who are like heavily involved in the economy. Some of the aristocrats of the place. Maybe it's one of their daughters. But all of these places, I couldn't find her anywhere until one day we're going along, this really terrible dirt road, and my dad spends all this money on these parties. He can't even keep the roads in good condition, so the wheel falls off of our buggy, and we're like, what the hell? But it turns out that we're right next to this little shanty. One of the peasants was living there. But and all of a sudden she just walks out of the door. And I'm like, what are you doing here? This is not a place for you. And I checked. It was her shoe, and I was like, well, whatever. Get in. Let's go. We're gonna go back, get married.
But the honeymoon did not last for long. Cinderella began to attend wild parties, searching desperately to fill the void that marred her ostensibly perfect life.
My marriage is wonderful. Prince Charming is, well, charming, clearly, and just lovely, and we, sometimes it's hard to spend quality time together, but he's awful busy running the kingdom, and I have many things to do in the castle.
Soon, all attempts at keeping up appearances failed as Cinderella descended into a whirlwind of drug and alcohol abuse.
Yes, I have a drug problem. Yes, I did sojourn at the lovely Betty Ford Clinic. No, it clearly didn't work. Yes, DUI. No, not a good thing.
In an attempt to rebuild her life, Cinderella decided to leave her loveless marriage for law school.
it just left him, you know, and I'm sure that he just has such a broken heart, and I couldn't get to him by then because, I mean, I was trying to be a good sister and not get in the way of that because, oh, they seemed so fucking happy ever after. It's hard.
However, Zelda did not agree with her sister's jealous assessment.
And the wedding was so romantic. I loved it. And I actually met my husband at their wedding, and we are living happily ever after. We have 3 kids who are beautiful. I think in the end, everything works out.
And things definitely worked out for Cinderella. Her newfound career as a women's rights advocate allowed her to reach her full potential.
Going to law school was, hands down, the best decision I could have possibly made. I got there and it was freeing. It was enlightening. I met all of these brilliant people, all these brilliant women who stepped outside of the home and were taking action and were changing the lives of other people for the better. I was inspired. I mean, sitting in a castle doing nothing with a handsome but vapid husband really doesn't even come close to the sense of fulfillment that one finds when you're actually doing something.
Everyone reacted differently to Cinderella's lifestyle change, particularly her relationship with noted prosecutor Lisa White.
A what?
A lesbian.
A lawyer.
Yes, that, but also a lesbian.
A lesbian lawyer.
Yes.
Wow. All right. No, that's really interesting. I mean, I hadn't spoken with her since, and I guess she's doing pretty well for herself. I mean, the lawyer part. No, the lesbian part too. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
To be perfectly frank, I think that she enjoyed dressing me, which makes sense, since, where she is now.
She's having such a great life with her partner, and I love having a sister-in-law. I mean, stepsister-in-law, I guess, but she's fabulous. So I think in the end, everyone got their happy ending.
And then I felt a tap on my shoulder one day in torts class, and I turn around, and there is this vision of loveliness. Long dark hair, green eyes, pale skin, I swooned. This was what was missing from my life, and I know love at first sight and all that nonsense, but it was. It was the most magical moment, and I wanted to charge in on a white steed and rescue her from a tower or torts class or whatever. Instead I took her out for coffee, because that is what we modern women do. And we talked, and we talked, and we talked, and we closed down the place, and I was in love. And it was the best thing that had ever happened to me. And we lived happily ever after.
I don't have time for really relationships right now. There's too much going on. I have a cat. He wanders around. I haven't named him. Haven't had time for that.
Well, I think she stole my clothes. I might have lost them. I have to be honest about that. But if you ask me, she stole my clothes.
Expired fruit juice, Fresca, and Diet Coke. This is why Cinderella is in such trouble, clearly, because she's drinking this. This is actually not the Valium, it's this. Yeah. So in Snow White, this caused a fatal instance. I'm hoping that is not the case here.
I promise I won't try to kill you.
All right, no.
Am I making it too tight?
No, it's good. It's good.
I'm having trouble keeping track of all the ribbons.
if you come at me with a comb or an apple, I'm gonna be a little bit concerned.
my shoes.